Alrighty, hello and welcome to a little bit of a character spotlight slash beta discussion. Now the biggest thing in this video is about the new NAUT Dizzy. I'm going to be underlying some gameplay from earlier that I got while playing her. She's basically in the same family as Frog. She's a frog, and she's actually his aunt slash cousin, depending on who you ask. But either way, she's a ton of fun. She's got a bunch of mini dashes like Frog, but kind of a big AoE damage like Chucho's grenade. It's kind of a combination, and at this point, it's quite literally getting rehashes of other characters. And while that could be talked about for a little bit, of just there's only so many limited amounts of things. And later on in this video, I'll sort of talk about how we're kind of limiting ourselves already with the new characters, but with our older characters, we're sort of changing them into more of these stereotypical types, and instead of keeping delineations between characters. I'm going to be mainly talking about the beta changes in this video, and I'm not going to say I'm right or I'm wrong about something. I'm just putting out my opinion based off playing this game for 4 years, playing a couple rounds with all the new characters. I've played everyone that changed, and I've also played a bunch with people playing them as they've changed, and also watching a few streamers. So this isn't just I saw the patch notes and I'm reacting. This is also with some gameplay in mind. So the biggest change is the way that Yuri, Derpl, and Lux act and play. So according to Ronimo, these characters were difficult to play and were unintuitive, and they didn't promote active gameplay, and so they changed them up a little bit to be more active. So Yuri can now move while lasering, and he tosses his mines instead of just placing them on the ground. Derpl tosses his trap in the same way that Yuri throws his mine, and Lux now has the ability to walk at 40% while firing his missiles, and can no longer cancel them. And these changes do sound intuitive, and yes, I've seen a lot of players actually be able to play these characters a little bit better, and they seem to be a little bit more active in team fights, but I'd say this also comes out like a little bit of a sacrifice when it comes to build variety and nuanced gaming. Yes, the builds they intended to remove were incredibly annoying, these mine stacking Yuris and a lot of camping gameplay, but it was sort of the same way that they were annoying, but they weren't impossible to deal with, and it just sort of became a way to avoid them. You didn't have to outplay them, you just sort of had to play around them. Okay, so what? Our Yuri is mine camping our jump pad on Serona. Okay, what are you gonna do? You're gonna keep falling for it. You fall for it once, shame on me. Fall for it twice, shame on you, or whatever that saying goes. Once you fell for it once, and you realize, man, Yuri hasn't been in this team fight, and it's been really easy because it's been a 3v2. You sort of been able to play around them, and when they didn't work, these gimmicky builds fail because you sacrifice something. And so now people are going to go for a more generic build that doesn't actually increase build variety. It kind of ruins it because it's not just build variety, it's strategy of playing. And some of what I wanted to talk about was a lot of these nuanced changes that separate. This game is really easy to pick up. You can start playing and start to get good at it within a couple matches, and this is evidenced by the free-to-play and how not bad they've been, but matchmaking is an entirely different thing. It's such an intuitively easy game to pick up because it's so simple, but there are these certain game mechanics which make these characters work, and once you learn them, these little tiny things, your potential in the game goes up. There's a very high skill ceiling when it comes to awesome knots, and I feel like some of the things that have been taken away are removing a bit of the skill ceiling. Derpl, while it seems a little bit more intuitive, is actually a bit of a nerf because I believe the snares take longer to actually activate than before. Bump snaring is a thing of the past. It's really difficult to actually pull one of those off from what I've seen. Almost everyone's complaining about how difficult it is to hit those. And it's that was part of the game, part of the nuances of the game. It's just yeah, it's frustrating, but I'm glad it's a part of that game because that's something I could go and learn and add to just how he plays. The same thing with Yuri is that okay, yes, face mining, there's not so much taken away, except for kind of his movement speed and probably the biggest thing to go here with all two of the three, the Lux and the Yuri, is that part of the reason why these NAUTs were balanced is because they had to make sacrifices when it came to putting forward an offensive status. Like all three of these actually, Derpl, because you have to turtle up. Like, it would be absolutely ridiculous to say, oh, well, Derpl has little tread tanks on his thing, so he can just sort of move out of the battlefield in case he, sieges up in the wrong place. Like, no. That's sort of an integral part to how Derpl works. And I sort of feel like Yuri's laser and Lux's missiles work in that same sort of way, that you sacrifice mobility when it comes to damage. And by sort of making him this amalgamous thing, like, first of all, slow on Yuri is already painful enough to deal with, but the way to deal with it is to just run away. When he pops his bubble, you run away, wait for it to go, and then you jump back in. But now he has this permanent status of being able to chase you and to never sort of relentlessly give up. And so it's like, yeah, AA Yuri was the only viable at high league solo queuing like build that you could do. You had to go AA Yuri or else it wouldn't work because the gimmicks wouldn't work. And so by making that even stronger, what's going to happen is it's going to be really tough to deal with, and then it's going to get nerfed because it's going to be overpowered, and then they're back in the same spot where they're not useful anymore because they're going to keep having these gimmicks that are going to be seen as overpowered and just get removed, and then ultimately even worse. But just part of Yuri was this sort of sacrificing mobility for damage. And there was so much in his gameplay. Yeah, it was hard to pick up. I mained Yuri for like a season just so I could figure him out, and I got pretty good with him. And like, you had to learn, but like, there's this whole style of gameplay. It's just like, yes, camping is annoying, but we've had more choices when it comes to dealing with camps ever before. Like, if you wanted to make these changes back when there was only 6 NAUTs and literally, like, no way to deal with it, but again, you had Froggy, you had Lone Star, there's always been ways of dealing with stray mines, just plain avoiding them. And so, like, by removing this, you're kind of limiting his burst potential and making him a laser character, as opposed to a mine layer. That's gonna be secondary. One thing I wanted to talk about is just, like, right now they're sort of fusing all the different character archetypes. We're losing a bit of what make things distinct. Everyone's becoming a NAUT thrower. I'm trying to make hand motions, but it doesn't work because this is audio. But like, you throw the damage out and it deals damage. And like, it seems like almost all of the burst abilities are now that. And there's just like a couple of like basic classes where there's the support, there's like, even there, that's kind of a stretch because now they realized how strong supports are. Genji, nerf, whatever. Damage dealers, like mobility changers, so like Ix, Leon, Skodir, those Sentry, those like sort of mobility NAUTs, and I can't remember my third category that I made. But anyway, it's just they're really limiting, and this is like another one of those like, okay, make everyone the same. And one of the big things that came to mind when sort of talking about this and thinking about this was a while back, Yoast made a really interesting article talking about how to deal with differing jump heights. And so he basically said there's going to be no way to actually make the perfect jump height, one that feels perfect every time you do it and just works, and speed, like the speed of a character versus jump height. There's just no way to make that feel perfect for every character. So what you do is you make them all unique. None's going to be perfect. None is going to feel completely right. But what happens is you learn those nuances. You learn what makes them different and how that gives you an advantage over others. With such a wide cast, like, you're never going to have perfect matchups 100% of the time. Like, that's just now a fact of life. There's so many characters that it's just impossible to guarantee that every matchup is fair. And until we have something like a drafting system or getting people to learn, like, I admit I don't know how to build a team comp, like, and I've been playing this game for 5 years. Like, it's just it's something, I don't know, it's just going after individual aspects of a character is which is sort of dangerous because then it sort of amalgamates people and it makes things danger to the nerf hammer. A couple other like things, I'll just sort of scroll through the patch notes. Isla, I feel like she's been buffed a little bit, which is good because she hasn't really been seen recently, a lot of things. One thing that definitely needs to be changed, and probably will before beta ends, is the eye while enraged. That's... Ooh. Okay, yes, I know that was unintuitive, but yet again, that was one of those nuances of the skill that Isla's already a pup-stomping noob crusher. You don't need to make it easier to do that by actually making it that easy to switch. You had to learn how to cancel and switch to your eye to do that follow-up. Now it's easier than ever. Like, that ability was always there. It's just you had to learn it. And that's sort of a mentality that I think is a little bit dangerous, is just making things easier. That I feel like a lot is what happened is Ronimo got a lot of feedback from the free-to-players, which isn't a terrible thing, but when you have to look at things from the grand spectrum of things that, like, yes, the earlier players are going to have trouble learning things. Like, one of their examples was they said in the stream that a lot of people didn't even realize you could cancel missiles. Well, yeah, like, it isn't explained anywhere. Like, if you want a build to be used, you don't, like, if there's a lack of knowledge, you don't just say, okay, well, nobody's using this because they don't know it exists, let's take it away. And I feel like that's a terrible thing because there were so many nuanced gameplays of when you could actually, like, learn how to do that. And I'm just saying, I want Ronimo to be careful about all of these little things that they're changing. Also, like, Jimmy, Amy, one of the things that made her more balanced is that she had to sacrifice that mobility. Again, like I was talking about with Yuri, is that she's a powerhouse of damage, but one of the things that made her good, like, made her counterable, was basically that she had to sacrifice completely movement to launch her nukes. So now you're basically guaranteed damage off of them, because you can also follow them, and that's a crap ton of damage, so he is really strong right now. I know numbers can be tweaked and stuff like that, but, like, I just feel like it's losing some of that interplay that you had to wait for Jimmy to do it, and while he was basically self-stunned, you could take advantage of that. It was just all this interesting interplay that is kind of getting thrown out for the sake of convenience and making things easier, which these kind of games were not meant to be easy. Easy to pick up, yes. Hard to master, that is the key. And, like, the other thing is, missile canceling was a really cool thing that you could use properly. I believe, like, that knockback could be applied specifically to things. Like, there was a lot of interesting things that you could do. Like, I'm all for, like, I'm really happy Clunk's momentum on drop, that he can sort of move side to side, is back, because that means a slightly more interesting build is possible, where you can kind of surprise people in that way, and that gives another thing for people to try and to do, as opposed to just sitting there. That's one of those changes that sort of made things interesting and more active, that you can sort of quote-unquote charge as Derpl, make surprises. Like, that's what he thrives on. That's what these big tanky burst characters thrive on, not kind of removing nuances. I've never played Deadlift, so I don't know how much of the self-knockback on impact. I feel like that was one of those things that people learned to use and to control, to sort of bounce off people and to as like an escaping mechanism, and just like, I'm just always cautious of changing how movement is handled with certain characters, because you get used to something a lot, and by changing it, it's going to actually mess with players a lot. Yes, you're going to get used to it. And that's another thing that I wanted to address, is that these changes aren't going to make the game unplayable. Of course not. Like, people are playing quote-unquote better with this. I'm just saying that, like, the numbers aren't going to change drastically of how much these characters are used. They're still the same base characters, and just slightly changing movement isn't going to actually change a ton. Ironic, I'm making this whole video about that. So the point is that these changes are not going to fundamentally change the way we play these characters, and they're not going to be hated. People are going to get used to them. yes, are resistant to change. I am definitely one of those people, but I'm always questioning when change is made without sort of justification. That a lot of the sort of balance problems that I see so clearly haven't been dealt with yet. Like Raylan's flybot is just ridiculously broken. Like, and the only thing they did to change that was increase the cooldown by 2 seconds. Yes, that's going to help brilliantly, but it's still not going to change how that works. It's kind of ridiculous. She needs decreased, like, without a doubt, decreased damage to turrets, because it's just stupid how much damage she does. Anyway, these changes are not going to be hated. People are going to get used to them, but that's not a reason to keep them. Yes, like, it's fun to sort of throw mines, and we're going to eventually get used to them if these changes stick, but it just sort of removes this interesting element from the game. Like, mines are already going to be abandoned. They've already kind of been abandoned. You didn't really buy mine upgrades. You bought bubble and AA, and now that's just going to keep happening, I think. Because it's a lot of money to invest in cooldown and duration now for not that much that you used to be able to do. I understand they were trying to get rid of the mine stacks. Oh, it's so terrible, but like, there were always ways to play around, and eventually if you fell for it, you either needed to learn or just move on. Like, there's just some things you're not going to be able to deal with, and that's just part of the game. And I'm just really cautious of, just as soon as we run into these problems, you change the core elements of the game. And I just don't want to see another Voltar where a character that was originally purposed to be a healer that really didn't have a ton of damage has now become one of the highest DPSing characters in the entire game. Like, I'm not saying he's like OP or broken. I'm just saying it's kind of ridiculous that one of the characters labeled as healer has such incredibly high boost, like, damage potential. It's just, I want to be careful. And there's always going to be this disconnect between higher leagues and lower league play, that, like, whenever they buff something on a character, that, like, the higher leagues are like, what? He's already completely broken. You don't need to give him anything more. Like, most lower leagues are probably like, why are they decreasing Genji? Genji's set. But, like, really, in the right circumstances, he's just unstoppable. That blessing was just so good in a team fight, that with actual team, like, there's just always going to be this disconnect. So I'm always careful about balanced decisions made for one side or the other, that it kind of needs to be this comprehensive look at how he work, like how all these different characters in a work, and not just affecting one side but both of them at the same time. Looking through the patch notes even more, Jimmy and Lux, I can appreciate the changing in dynamics of making it more consistent, and it definitely has felt a little bit better, both playing with him and playing against him, that it feels more correct. Because that was one of my least favorite things about playing against Jimmy, was that, like, you jump over him and it still grabs you and sucks you back in, and you're like, what the? I totally dodged that. But now, I guess because it's checking for like, interaction a lot more often, it feels a lot better. So when you actually get stuck in it, yes, you feel, yeah, I'm getting stuck, and you're pushed properly. So while playing it, it feels more responsive, but while playing against it, it feels a little bit better and more responsive, I guess, because it's checking more. Very small sample size. I haven't played a crap ton of games, but still. Raylan, again, stalling is still always going to be an issue. I just played a game where a Raylan and a Yuri almost was able to just stall out the game at the base, because they just sat there at base on a Gillian, and I was getting impatient and would jump in and try to kill. I would get, like, a kill, but then I would die, and then my two teammates would die, and then disaster would strike. And it's just like, it's so hard to reduce these things that come down to the core mechanics of the game. Like, I don't know how to change this. It's just, maybe just increasing cooldown wasn't it. Regardless, laser pointer, it's nice that it's now not just this universal blind thing, and that also helps with the turtling thing. Yeah. Oh, thank goodness, Skodier's third punch will no longer collide with seating. that will actually make me play again. Maybe. These changes aren't going to be game breaking. I've said that earlier, but it's just I am making this not so much as to be able to tell everyone this is how it is. This is to open up discussion. I want to hear what you guys think. I mean, I've seen on streams people are like, what the heck is done to Yuri? And like I said earlier, people are going to learn how to deal with this. But I just don't want there to be change just for the sake of change. I am always against those kind of things. If you have a reason, yes, but not just change. And I just wanted to start this video to sort of be a message board, that if you have ideas about these kind of things, about why they should be changed like this or why they shouldn't change this, feel free to comment. I respond to almost all of my comments I get on YouTube, and hopefully this kind of a thing will show, yes, we are discussing balance outside of the forums. I know I should be more present in the forums, but I'm not. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't, or you guys shouldn't have any input in. If something like this gets watched and viewed by Ronimo, they can sort of see, hey, maybe we should take that into consideration. They definitely love feedback. It's a question of what feedback do they listen to? That's the key question. But anyway, this video is going to be long enough, around 20 minutes, but I just wanted to sort of put out my 2 cents. Sort of, you're not going to get the perfect thing that feels right. It's about getting differences between characters aren't a bad thing. That's what creates nuances and interesting gameplay and things to learn about the game, higher skill ceiling. I know all these things, they're just words to sort of justify my feelings, but I feel that this mentality is worth keeping, that these little tiny things that they're removing for convenience can actually mean the difference between a League 1 player and a League 5 player, is knowing those tiny little things. There are so many nuances of the game that even me and my friends, when we play together, we learn about the game. We're just like, Lucille told me the other day, it's like, I didn't know you could AA cancel with Scoop, so you could select which, wow, that's cool. It's like, yeah, I've known about that for years. How did you not? It's just, there's so many tiny things to learn about the game, and I feel like these couple of changes may affect, like, of course, they may create things. I could be entirely wrong. I always welcome me being wrong. I post these videos as embarrassing records of my opinions. I'm never going to be perfect. I never claim to be that, and I don't intend to be right. Don't think I'm right always. I just want to create these things as opinion posts. This is my opinion. I'm presenting my opinion, and you guys are free to talk about yours. Anyway, I am droning on long enough. I think this is around as much footage I have of those 2 games. So, your character, really cool. In beta right now for everyone. The way you get to it is you just go to Steam, you go to your library, in the actual big menu, right click, and you say play Awesome Knots beta. You can't, on the list of things to the left, you can't use the icon down on your desktop or things like that. That doesn't actually work. She's a lot of fun. I'm a little bit cautious of now we're not just repeating themes of characters, we're just repeating characters in the form of like Rip Froggy, but Froggy's still gonna be good. He's still like, if he's survived this long of getting other characters introduced, he'll survive a little bit longer. Anyway, droning on long enough. As it happens, when I'm not actually distracted by gameplay, I actually can speak my mind and form cohesive sentences longer than 1.5 word lengths. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Spending a dime in a future time. Ha! I'm off. Ha! Now you see me. Better watch out. Your turret is under attack. Mini-me. Ha! watch out. The power of my food. Fire bubble. Now you see me. Explosive busy.
You have been killed.
Overshadowing me.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast! An ally has been killed.
I'm ready for my solo. Hop into the store. Hoopla! Ha! Ha! Better watch out. Dashing on the way. Ready for my solo? Better watch out. Explosive busy. Hoopla. Better watch out. No way. Better watch out. Aquafu engaged. Now you see me. Now you never. The power of my food. Better watch out. Better watch out.
You have been killed.
Wowee!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast!
Aquafu is the essence of life. Ooh, I love me some upgrades.
Turret is under attack.
The power of my... Better watch out.
You have killed an enemy.
Better watch out. I don't know. Better watch out. Explosive busy. Instrumental right now. Need a new mic for my solo. Hoopla. Ha! The power of my food. Better watch out. Hoopla! Better watch out. Now you see. Aquafu engaged. Now you don't. Better watch out.
You have killed
Better watch out. I'd like to thank my producer and my bro, Froggy G. Don't go overshadowing me. Ah! Fire bubble! Explosive fizzy! Ha! Ha! Better watch out! Ha! Better watch out! Ha! Now you see. And now it's time for a rap interlude. Hop into the store. Better watch out. Ready for my solo? Better watch out. Don't go overshadowing me. Hoopla! Woo!
Your turret is destroyed. An ally has been killed.
Aquafu engaged. Better watch out. Ha! Now you know. Better watch out. The power of my food. Better watch out. Aquafu engaged. They ain't getting through our defenses. Mini. Better watch out. Now you see me. Better watch out.
Your turret is over.
Now you don't. Better watch out. No way. Better watch out. Better watch out. Ready for my solo? Better watch out. Dashing all the way.
Ally has been killed.
Now you see me. Better watch out. Don't go overshadowing me. Ha! Now you don't. Explosive fizzy. Ha! Hoopla!
You have killed an enemy.
Better watch out. Better watch out.
Ally has been killed.
Ready for my solo?
Kill.
It's solo time. Ooh, I love me some upgrades. Hoopla! Don't go overshadowing me. Better watch out. Ha! those runner-ups. They're gunning for us. Aqua engaged. Renegades defend. Better watch out. Better watch out. Ha!
You have been killed.
Better watch.
Killing machine.
Ha!
5, 4, 3, 2. Your base is under attack. Blast. Defeat.
Time to hit those charts.